Don't forget to keep checking out my Twitter and Tumblr down in the description below to help support the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements and protests and petitions that are happening right now. All I'm doing is retweeting and reblogging links and resources to help spread the word, so make sure to check those out. Hello Friendzies, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be episode 2 of the Serious series. I said there was going to be like 4. There might only be 3, but this is episode 2, and it very much goes along with the first episode, the Blockham episode, and so the Blockham episode is more for like younger people. This is a video for older people on the internet, because I said they were kind of, the series was going to be about like internet safety in a way. Maybe not specifically internet safety, but like, so this is more aimed towards adults, and this goes to the Blockham video. They go together. I'll get into that. This is also a video I probably should have scripted and didn't, so we're gonna roll with it. Being an adult on the internet, most of us are at this point. I don't know what my target demographic is. I never planned for one really. I guess people my age, which is 24, I'm 24. But YouTube is weird and will show kids things that aren't marked like family friendly with the new rules on YouTube, but then things that are family friendly are blocked for kids. YouTube doesn't make any sense, but here we are. So yes, I am 24. I am an adult on the internet. Whether I think of myself as an adult or not, legally, I am an adult. There are a lot of adults on the internet. Most of the people I feel like on the internet are adults, because we're the ones that kind of grew up with it, and we're the ones who use it for work and things like that. But there are also plenty of kids on the internet. Whether they're very young, or whether they're in their teens, or whether they're young adults like 18, 19, even 17. As an adult, in real life, this should be happening in real life anyway, not just the internet, but especially on the internet, because people are, like I said in the Blockham video, people like to pretend to be other ages and stuff to be creepy and terrible. But as an adult, no matter where you are on the internet, real life, wherever, it is your responsibility to keep the kids safe. End of discussion, that's it. It's our responsibility to keep kids safe. And that means looking at our activity on the internet and being really critical about what we do on the internet. So a lot of it, I guess, especially as somebody who's on Tumblr and has been on Tumblr since 2011, 2012? Nah, probably 2010. I think I've been there since 2010, so especially as somebody that's been on Tumblr since 2010 and has had a lot of different experiences through Tumblr, because I have 100% gone through the roller coaster of joining Tumblr, having a good time, just vibing, racketing up to having like extreme opinions, believing every little thing I read, getting into every little bit of discourse, whether it involved me or not, to petering back to just vibing and having a good time and following people that only reblog stuff that like make me happy and things that like are educating to me. Things like that. When kids are in that point specifically, as an adult, you need to make sure that you're not doing anything that's harming these kids. Now, grooming is a very intentional action, but because grooming isn't the right word, because grooming is a very intentional action taken against young people. But there are things that could be equated to grooming, essentially, from like an outside perspective that adults do, whether they realize it or not. And that's, again, it's our responsibility as adults on the internet to catch those things and make sure we're not doing it. Again, with Tumblr, so I'm not like calling out Tumblr, this is my best example of it. With Tumblr specifically, it's very easy to get into fandoms of things. Like, I'm a big Steven Universe fan. I still haven't watched most of the series, but I was into Steven Universe, I was into Adventure Time. She-Ra is a big one right now. Percy Jackson's a big one right now that are like revamping themselves. And there's a lot of young kids in those fandoms. It's mostly young kids because these shows are marketed for them, because the idea of selling toys and everything, the capitalism nightmare. Kids shows are marketed towards children. There's obviously nothing wrong with being an adult and enjoying a kids show. But again, as an adult, you have to be responsible. It's okay to interact with the kids and, you know, talk about like your favorite scenes and, you know, talk about when something happened, but that's where the conversation needs to stay. You need to be as just like surface level as possible in that sense. And you really cannot go any deeper because kids are impressionable. Kids, like, take this from somebody who dealt with issues like this when I was younger. Especially kids that are like from not great backgrounds or not great homes and the internet's like an escape. The first time you kind of veer off that path of just like the very basic surface level interactions, those kids can get attached. And that does more harm than good, because if they get attached to a stranger on the internet, they're more likely to do something like run away from home and try to find this strange adult that could cause them harm. I am coming from a background of being abused as a child and having people on the internet try to like be creepy and groom me, and having fantasies when I was young and in a bad place, like of wanting to run away with these random strangers I don't know. This is not the same as internet friendship. But internet friendship should be two kids, two adults, not a kid and an adult, in all honesty. I understand if, you know, you guys have a lot of the same opinions and stuff like that, but if you're 20 and this kid is 16, you can't go get super friendly with them. You really can't. It's not healthy and it's not safe for the kid. And I'm sorry if that's like the first nice interaction you've had with anybody in your life, because everybody in your life is horrible. You're still 20 and that kid is still 16. And you could get into like the more detailed, you know, like mentoring and things like that. But basic understanding that everybody needs to take away from this is we need to keep the kids safe, no matter how old they are. When they start getting into their 20s, in a sense, they can kind of fend for themselves. Like, I'm fending for myself fine, but just don't get super chummy. Don't get super friendly with young kids. Just don't. And the thing is, it is, especially when you're older, it's harder for younger kids because people are very good at lying. I fell for it plenty of times. But it gets easier to tell when somebody's lying about their age or not. Like, I had a lot of friends in a Sims 2, like, chat and everything, and I could tell that we were all about the same age. Maybe people were like 2 or 3 years older, maybe people were a couple years younger, but we were all pretty much in the same bracket. There was maybe a 5-year age difference overall. And it gets easy to tell because then they were older people that were like in their late teens, early 20s at the time. I was maybe like 12, 13. You can tell with the way people type, with the way people interact. You might be slow to like get it, but people, you could tell who's kind of older at that point. And I remember being 12, 13, 14 and trying to interact with people that were older than me. And them kind of being like, yeah, haha, like, okay, and in a sense brushing me off. And I do remember being very upset about that. But that was smart of them in the long run. Because even if you want to think about it in a selfish sense, it's keeping you safe as an adult. It's keeping you from getting pulled into a situation where you could get in big trouble. The people that do get really close with the kids, even if they genuinely have no ill intention, it makes me nervous. It really does. It makes me nervous because again, even if there's no ill intention, like genuinely they would never even think about that. Again, kids can get the wrong impression. And I keep saying kids, but I even mean kids that are like 18, 19. Because realistically, that doesn't seem that young. When I'm saying it, 24 to 19 does not seem that young. Honestly, I turned 18 and I have felt the exact same since I turned 18. I really haven't felt any different. But I am in fact 24. I'm not 18. And whether we want to believe it or not, that is a big gap. And yeah, some kids are mature for their age, but that's just a really crappy way of saying traumatized and unable to process anything. Because I was mature for my age. And I was traumatized and unable to process things. And calling kids mature for their age is honestly a tactic that creepy dudes used to prey on teenage girls. And if you're watching this as an adult and you're getting really uncomfortable, that's the fucking point. I'm talking to you specifically. You should be uncomfortable because that means you need to take a look at things that you're doing, ways that you're interacting with people, and probably reevaluate them. I'm getting like really heated and worked up. But that's, and I feel like I am rambling and kind of like starting in one direction and then shooting off into another. But I just, at the bare bones of it, another video where I just repeat myself over and over again, at the bare bones of it, you got to keep the kids safe. It is your responsibility to keep the kids safe. There are too many kids in this world that are heading movements and being hurt because they're young and they're vulnerable and they're doing things on their own because adults are not stepping up and keeping them safe. It doesn't have to be you directly standing in front of the kid and being like, no, I take responsibility for them and I'm not letting you hurt them. It doesn't even have to be that. It has to start from the bottom and work up. And a lot of the bottom work is just being a decent person and keeping interactions bare bones, surface level. You're not going any deeper. Because you can be friendly with someone without being friends with them. You do it with your friend, you do it with people in your life all the time. You do it with your coworkers, you do it with people you interact with, you do it all the time, and there's no reason why it should change for a teenager. Just because both of you are talking about how Garnet is your favorite character. And how you love that, what's Shira and Katra's ship name? I don't know. Even if you're talking about how it's great that we finally got, you know, the lesbian representation we deserve, there's no reason why it needs to go past basic friendly interaction. Because again, once it goes past there, the kids are gonna latch on to that. It's a human thing. It's totally human. But younger kids are more impressionable. It's just a fact. And any of the kids that are watching this, I'm not trying to make you sound like dumb or like helpless little babies. But I also want you to understand that older people are not really your friends. I'm glad that you have somebody, in a sense, that you look up to and you value as somebody important to you. I'm glad, because everybody should have that. But if you are like 17, 18, and this person is in their mid to late 20s, you guys aren't gonna be close friends. Because that's where a lot of, even if they genuinely do not mean to, that's where a lot of predatory things can happen. And I just want you guys to be aware of that. And I want the adults to be aware that they really need to rethink some of the way they interact with people. And I'm guilty of this. I can fully admit to that. I'm guilty of it. And that's where I need to we all need to step back. I do. We all need to step back and relook at it. And I have done that. I have distanced myself from like friends on the internet and been very careful. Especially in situations like chat rooms and like role play things like Gaia Online. I mentioned that in my other video. You know, the role play situations. You need to set boundaries. And you need to be very liberal with the block button. So if you say, you know, only like 15 plus interaction, 18 plus like ship interactions if you're doing like a role play thing. If the minor doesn't adhere to that, you need to be the one responsible to be like, hey, knock it off. And I'm sorry, I don't care if it hurts their feelings. They need to get their feelings hurt if it's gonna keep both of, like, mainly the kids safe, but again, for selfish reasons, both of you safe. It's like, that's it. That's bare bones minimum. I have been very careful about that. I have people commenting on videos that I make sometimes that if I feel like it's a little too like chummy or inappropriate, and you know, I look at the person's profile just to get an idea and they're like a young kid, I block it. And in a sense, I do feel bad because it kind of comes out of the blue, but it doesn't really, because I'm trying to make sure that that kid does not get the wrong idea and doesn't fall into like a predatory situation. Whether I was meaning it to turn into that situation or not, it could. Because I'm a 24-year-old adult and that kid's 16, 17. Are we all clear on this? Be smart about it, be aware of what you're doing, and set boundaries, and don't be afraid to block people. And again, kids, this goes to you. If this adult is getting way too chummy, block them. I don't care if their feelings are hurt, it doesn't matter. Your safety comes first. I'm not gonna put a funny blooper at the end because this is like a serious video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!